We explore galaxies. We map the ocean floor. We measure the speed of light and launch satellites into the unknown. But there's one place we've barely begun to enter: the human psyche. We chase progress. We build cities, craft identities, and seek perfection. But we forget something essential, that the most important journey is the one inward. Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychological thinkers of the 20th century, saw the psyche not as a flaw to fix, but as a world to explore. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. To Jung, the psyche was not a tangle of random thoughts or impulses. It was a living cosmos, vast, layered, intelligent, a place where our conscious minds meet the hidden forces that truly shape us: memories, archetypes, instincts, shadows. This inner world, he said, contains more mystery than all the stars we've studied. In ancient maps, uncharted regions were marked with warnings. Here be dragons. The same holds true inside us. The parts of ourselves we ignore, the anger, the grief, the confusion, the unfulfilled dreams, don't disappear. They wait in silence and grow in the dark. Most people avoid this descent. They live on the surface, identified with roles, caught in patterns, trapped in the persona. But something always calls from beneath. Every anxiety, every dream, every conflict is not a flaw, it's an invitation. The psyche doesn't punish, it teaches. It doesn't speak in commands, it speaks in symbols, through dreams, through triggers, through repeating cycles. This is not a spiritual cliché. This is the work of becoming whole, of integrating all the parts of who we are. We begin here, not with knowledge, but with wonder, not with certainty, but with the courage to go inward, to meet yourself, not as you wish to be, but as you truly are, beneath the noise, behind the masks, beyond the fear. So step quietly into the doorway of your own soul. The psyche is waiting, and this is where your real story begins. We live in a world of surfaces, emails, deadlines, notifications, conversations that skim the surface of truth. We perform, we smile, we cope. And yet, behind the performance, something stirs. Something watches quietly, wondering, is this all there is? What most people call the self is not the whole self. It is only the conscious mind, the part of the psyche that sees the light of day. It is where we make decisions, reason, plan, and identify. This is where the ego lives, our sense of I, our identity, our role in the world. To Jung, the ego was important, but not supreme. The ego is like a tiny boat floating on a vast ocean. It thinks it controls the waves, but it is moved by deeper currents. The ego helps us function, to work, to love, to dream, but it also limits us. It believes it knows everything. It resists change, denies weakness, avoids the unknown. Worse, it confuses awareness with control. If I can name it, I must be free of it, right? But beneath our conscious mind is something deeper, something far more powerful, the unconscious. The conscious mind thinks it's in charge, but often we find ourselves acting, reacting, falling into patterns without ever choosing them. You say something you instantly regret. You sabotage a relationship you desperately wanted to protect. You feel envy, shame, or rage, and don't know where it came from. These are not failures of willpower. They are symptoms of unseen forces inside you. The ego doesn't like that. It wants clarity, simplicity, control. But the psyche doesn't work that way. Jung believed true growth begins when we stop trying to master the mind and instead begin to observe it, to watch how your ego clings to praise, how it avoids discomfort, how it hides vulnerability behind control. The conscious mind wants to be the hero, but Jung warned, The ego can easily become a tyrant, guarding the castle gates while the kingdom within falls into shadow. To awaken, we must challenge the illusion that we already know ourselves, and that means becoming honest, radically honest, about how little we actually see. The ego is not the villain, but it is not the whole story. It is the beginning of the journey, the fragile flame of awareness in a vast inner night. And until we understand what lies beyond it, we remain asleep, dreaming we are awake. There are parts of you you've forgotten, moments, faces, feelings, not because they were unimportant, but because they were too painful, too confusing, too much. These fragments don't disappear. They fall beneath the surface. They become part of what Jung called the personal unconscious, a private underworld made of everything you've forgotten, rejected, or buried. Your childhood fears, the love you never expressed, the memory you rewrote to protect yourself, the shame that curled itself into silence. To Jung, the personal unconscious is a hidden reservoir, deeper than the conscious mind, but still shaped by your life story. It's not evil, it's not weak, it's full of messages waiting to be heard, and one of the ways the unconscious speaks is through what Jung called complexes. A complex, he wrote, is the living core of your suffering, a knot of emotion, memory, and meaning that acts without your permission. You may have a mother complex, not just thoughts about your mother, but an emotional pattern shaped by years of unmet needs or overprotection. It affects how you love, how you trust, how you see women or nurture yourself. You may have a power complex, a buried drive to dominate or to avoid conflict altogether, born from early experiences of powerlessness. These complexes are like psychological reflexes. They react before you can. They make you overreact, shut down, lash out, or run away. The tragedy is not that we have complexes. The tragedy is that we think they are us. You might say, "I'm just an angry person." But what if that anger is a shield around old grief? You might say, "I always ruin relationships." But what if it's not you, but a wounded child inside you, afraid of being abandoned again? The personal unconscious is not your enemy, it's your forgotten self, and the more you avoid it, the louder it calls. It speaks in dreams, through symbols and faces you haven't seen in years. It speaks in projection, when you accuse others of the very thing you deny in yourself. It speaks through the body, through tension, illness, addiction, or fatigue. You cannot heal what you won't face, and you cannot face what you do not see. That's why Jung emphasized the need for self-observation, not judgment, not repression, but watching with honesty and compassion, to see your anger not as sin, but as signal, to feel your sadness not as weakness, but as the doorway to something sacred. The personal unconscious is not a junk drawer of the psyche. It is the archive of your becoming, and hidden within it are the very wounds, fears, and longings that hold the key to your transformation. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." You are not just what you know, you are also what you've forgotten, denied, and run from. And if you dare to look inward, you may find that the parts of you you feared the most are actually the pieces of your soul you left behind. There are thoughts in your mind that were never yours, images you never saw, but somehow understand, dreams that speak a language older than you've ever learned. What if your psyche was not just personal, but ancestral? What if deep within you lived a memory, not of your life, but of the entire human story? Carl Jung called this dimension the collective unconscious, a universal layer of the psyche shared by all human beings. It is not built from your individual experience. It is inherited, passed down like blood, like instinct, like bone. It contains no specific memories, but instead patterns, recurring blueprints of thought, feeling, and behavior that have shaped every myth, every civilization, every soul. Just as every person inherits a body, Jung wrote, so too do they inherit a psychic structure, a mind shaped by the entire history of humanity. This is where we encounter archetypes, the symbolic characters and themes that live beneath all stories. They appear in your dreams, your films, your fears, and fantasies. You've seen them before. You've felt them without knowing why. Let's explore a few. The wise old man, woman, the voice of intuition, the inner sage who appears when you're lost, offering guidance from beyond logic. The shadow, the dark twin, the denied self, appears as the enemy, the monster, the outcast, yet always holds the power you abandoned. The anima, animus, the inner opposite. In men, the anima, emotional, intuitive, receptive. In women, the animus, logical, assertive, willful. They symbolize your hidden side and demand integration. The persona, the social mask, the version of you that society applauds, but which often suffocates the true self. The hero, the seeker, the adventurer, the part of you that longs for greatness, but must pass through suffering to earn it. These archetypes are not characters from a book. They are forces within you. That's why certain stories feel eternal, not because they are told again and again, but because they are lived again and again through every human soul. From ancient myths to modern movies, from the Odyssey to Star Wars, we keep repeating the same inner journey, because the collective unconscious is the stage upon which your personal life plays out its timeless drama. When you dream of falling, you're not just afraid of failure. You're meeting the archetype of loss of control, a fear as old as fire. When you fear rejection, you're not just remembering your past. You're stepping into the wounded child, a universal image of abandonment and healing. When you feel drawn to someone you cannot explain, you may be encountering your anima or animus, not a person, but a symbol of your own inner polarity. And this is why Jung treated dreams with such care. He believed they were not just fragments of your day, but messages from the collective soul. Each symbol in your dream is a portal. Each strange figure is a guide, not from outside, but from deep within. The unconscious, Jung wrote, is not just a wild jungle, it is a mirror, reflecting both the animal and the divine within us. To engage the collective unconscious is to step into a deeper dimension. It is to realize that your personal journey is also mythic, that every struggle carries ancient weight, and every triumph echoes through the history of the soul. You are not just you. You are the dreamer of ancient symbols. You are the story being told again, through a new name, a new face, a new lifetime. Man cannot stand a meaningless life, Jung said. That is why we dream. That is why we create gods. That is why we must listen to the soul. The collective unconscious does not speak in words. It speaks in images, in patterns, in archetypes. It speaks in synchronicity, the moments that defy logic, but pulse with deep inner meaning. It speaks to remind you, you are not lost, you are not broken. You are part of something greater, something eternal, unfolding itself through the story of your life. Every person has a dark twin, not a villain in the world, but a force within, a shape made of everything you don't want to see. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of yourself you hide, deny, or refuse to accept. The shadow is not necessarily evil, Jung wrote. It is simply that which the ego refuses to acknowledge. It begins in childhood. You were told, be good, don't be angry, don't be selfish. And so you learn to suppress parts of yourself, your rage, your desire, your grief, your wildness. But what we push away doesn't vanish. It sinks. It becomes the shadow, lurking beneath the mask, watching, waiting, shaping your life. You might think, I'm not angry, but the shadow rages in your relationships. You say, I'm never jealous, but the shadow seethes in your silence. You believe, I'm a kind person, but the shadow appears in the gossip, in the judgment, in the resentment. The shadow is not bad. It's simply the unintegrated, the traits you rejected to survive, to fit in, to be loved. But now, those same rejected parts demand your attention, because the longer you deny them, the more they control you. You meet your shadow through projections, when you hate in others what you can't admit in yourself. Triggers, when small things evoke enormous emotional responses. Repetitive patterns, sabotaging relationships, careers, inner peace. These are not accidents, they are signs. Your shadow is trying to return home. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Shadow work is not about erasing the darkness. It is about seeing it clearly, calmly, and reclaiming the power it holds. Because the shadow contains more than pain. It also holds your creativity, sensuality, assertiveness, instinct, truth. It holds the gold that was buried with the shame. The shadow, Jung said, is 90% pure gold. To meet your shadow is to face yourself in full, not just the polished mask, but the raw truth, the whole being. And yes, it is uncomfortable, because we fear what we don't understand. We confuse the shadow with evil, when in truth, it is the source of our potential. Imagine a lion raised as a sheep. It learns to hide its roar, to shrink, to follow, to please. One day, it hears a growl from deep inside and panics. But the growl is not danger, it is a memory. It is the sound of what was always there, waiting to be remembered. This is the work, to remember what you've disowned, to embrace what you've buried. The shadow is not your enemy, it is your mirror. And when you learn to see it without fear, you gain a kind of freedom that cannot be faked. The freedom to stop pretending, to stop projecting, to stop splitting yourself in half. This is not self-help. This is self-confrontation. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. You cannot walk into your light without first passing through your own darkness. Jung warned, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Your shadow is your root, and in the place you feared most, you will find the truth you needed most. Not to be better, but to be you, fully, honestly, powerfully. Nature does not rush, yet everything gets done. The seasons turn, the tides shift, the body heals, not through force, but through balance. Carl Jung believed the psyche works the same way. He saw it not as a broken machine to be repaired, but as a living system, seeking wholeness and equilibrium. The psyche is a self-regulating system, Jung wrote. Just as the body seeks physical homeostasis, the psyche strives for psychological balance. What you repress doesn't disappear, it resurfaces somewhere else. Ignore sadness, and it becomes tension in the chest. Deny anger, and it shows up as passive aggression. Avoid truth, and your dreams scream it through symbols and scenes. The psyche doesn't punish, it corrects. Like a compass, it turns us back toward what we need to face. Think of a dream where you're lost in a city. You wake up anxious but brush it off. What if that dream isn't random? What if it's your psyche saying, you're lost, but not in the world. you're lost in yourself. Jung called this communication the symbolic function of the unconscious. It doesn't use language. It speaks in images, emotions, synchronistic events, repetitive patterns. Each one is a message, a mirror, a map. If you feel stuck in life, the psyche may not be punishing you. It may be trying to slow you down so you can listen. You get sick when you're overwhelmed. You dream of falling when you've lost control. You see signs, coincidences that feel charged with meaning. This is not coincidence. This is psychic feedback, the soul's way of self-regulation. Modern life teaches us to numb, to ignore the whisper and chase the distraction. But the psyche is patient. If the whisper is ignored, it becomes a knock. If the knock is ignored, it becomes a breakdown, not to harm you, but to awaken you. When you begin to align with this rhythm, life starts to feel different, not easier, but more truthful, more alive. You begin to ask, why am I drawn to this situation again? What is this anxiety trying to tell me? What part of me have I been neglecting? This shift from repression to dialogue is the beginning of healing. The psyche wants integration, not perfection. It wants you to become whole, to bring together the light and the dark, the seen and the unseen, the conscious and the unconscious. That's why the same patterns keep returning, not to trap you, but to teach you, to help you become the person your soul remembers you are. We must not forget, Jung said, that we are not merely the passive victims of the psyche. We are also its servants and its students. To listen to the psyche is to return to a deeper kind of intelligence, one that doesn't rush or judge, but simply knows. Knows when it's time to let go, knows when it's time to feel, knows that beneath the chaos, there is always a center. You are not just your name, not just your thoughts, not even your past. You are a story unfolding, a mystery remembering itself. The journey through the psyche is not a straight path. It loops, it descends, it pauses in silence. But at its center is something ancient and alive, something that does not seek perfection, only wholeness. Jung called this process individuation, the becoming of who you truly are, not by rising above the world, but by descending into yourself, by seeing every fragment of your being and welcoming it home. To become whole is to stop running from your shadow, to listen to your dreams, to stop confusing the ego with the soul. It is to understand that the anger, the grief, the confusion, even the chaos, are not signs of failure. They are the signs that you are alive. Awakening is not a clean, linear story. It's not a product to achieve. It's a return to the center, to the self that was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the persona you were told to wear. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is not a metaphor, it is a direction. It is a compass in your chest, pointing inward, always inward. But the world will try to distract you. It will say, fix yourself, be normal, stay small. It will reward the mask and punish the truth. But the soul knows, and eventually you will feel it. The ache of forgetting, the whisper in your dream, the pull towards something deeper. You'll realize your life is not random. Your suffering is not meaningless. Your patterns are not curses. They are invitations to remember, to integrate, to return. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not lost. You are returning. And everything you've been running from is already a part of you, waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, waiting to be loved. So ask yourself, not what should I do, but who am I really? And then walk slowly toward the answer, not with fear, but with reverence, because you are not just discovering yourself, you are reuniting with the entire universe within, and the psyche, your soul, has been waiting for you all along.